Tonight, anxious moments. A temporary truce in Gaza with hostages just hours away from freedom under a deal between Israel and Hamas. A halt in the fighting.
Our main objective here is the safety of the hostages.
The timeline of the agreement after weeks of negotiations. Violent clashes in Ireland as a wave of anti-immigrant sentiment sweeps across Europe. Also, in Quebec, 500,000 public workers hit the picket lines demanding more pay. Plus, trapped on a burning building, the dramatic high-rise rescue. And from striking a chord to discord. Hull versus Oates, a legal battle between one of the biggest duos in pop history.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. For the first time since the start of the Israel-Hamas war, there is some relief tonight. An anticipated pause in fighting as a long-awaited hostage deal moves ahead. The break brief, 4 days. 13 women and children will form the first group of hostages released tomorrow. Who they are, we still don't know. Among those held captive is Abigail Moore-Idan, who turns 4 tomorrow. Israeli troops have been instructed not to tell her that her parents were killed by Hamas. The pause comes too late for the more than 5,000 Palestinian children killed in Gaza, according to the Red Crescent. Among them, 7-year-old Noor, dug out from the wreckage of her bedroom. Her mother, Shama, returning to what was once their family home, holding her grief while combing through debris to search for winter clothing for her surviving children. CTV's Heather Wright on the countdown to the pause.
After nearly 7 weeks of war, a pause. A ceasefire coming into effect in Gaza, with hostages set to be released later on Friday.
The first batch of civilians to be released from Gaza will be around 4 p.m. They will be 13 in number, all women and children.
Today, Qatar's foreign ministry laid out the timeline of the agreement between Israel and Hamas, which includes a 4-day ceasefire. Over that time, 50 hostages will be released in exchange for 150 Palestinian women and teenagers held in Israeli jails.
It's definitely a step in the right direction.
Palestinian Canadian Mansour Shoman is in Khan Yunis in the south and says this truce is desperately needed.
The humanitarian situation is spiraling down very fast. What is coming right now in from aid is negligible towards what is actually needed on the ground.
200 aid trucks and 4 fuel trucks will also be allowed to enter Gaza on each day of the pause, bringing some relief to the territory where the cemeteries are now full. Israel says it has notified the families of the hostages that are set to be released tomorrow, while many others wait and hope. Like the family of Noah Argamani, who is believed to be among the hostages seen in this video on the back of a motorbike, kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival. This is the order it should be, Noah's father says. First the children, Noah's turn will come. Israeli airstrikes continue to hit Hamas targets ahead of Friday's ceasefire, with fighting reported near the Jabalia refugee camp. Hamas claims dozens of civilians were killed, while Israel released this video saying it found tunnels at the camp. Neither claim could be independently verified. Qatar says it is hopeful this initial ceasefire could last longer. There are terms in place that could see this truce extended by an additional day for every 10 hostages released. Omar.
All right, Heather, thank you. People on both sides of the conflict told their stories in Canada today, including a man who recently got out of Gaza.
I left behind the smell of death, the horrifying sounds of explosion, and the sight of dogs eating the flesh of the dead bodies.
Don't stop, don't stop. Don't stop.
A Canadian Israeli shot this video while fleeing the Nova Music Festival.
We both get down low to the ground, cowering, trying not to be shot.
He spoke at an event at the University of Toronto today. The war has sparked a surge in hate-motivated incidents across the country. Today, police in Canada's largest city said the increase is unprecedented.
These alarming trends in our city, which prides itself in our diversity, are the likes of which we have never seen before.
Since the war began on October 7th, 38 incidents targeted Jews, compared to 13 during the same time period last year. And there were 17 reported anti-Muslim or anti-Palestinian hate crimes, compared to 1 in the same time frame a year ago. There are also signs of intolerance spreading across Europe tonight. An election victory for a far-right party with anti-Islamic views, and a stabbing that led to a riot over immigration. Here's CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin.
Violent protests ripped through Dublin. The crowd chanting anti-immigrant slogans injured police officers, burned cars and buses, and looted shops. The head of the National Police condemned what he called a lunatic faction driven by far-right ideology. Though the investigation is still ongoing, rioters blame a foreigner for the violent stabbing injuries to 3 children and a woman earlier in the day. This hours after a sign in the Netherlands that rising far-right populism is altering the European landscape. A man dubbed the Dutch Donald Trump landed an election win. It was a stunning upset that even shocked Geert Wilders and his Freedom Party. We will make sure that the Netherlands will be for the Dutch people again, he told supporters. We will restrict the tsunami of asylum and migration. Always a firebrand, he rode a wave of anti-immigration sentiment, blaming asylum seekers for a housing shortage and focusing on cost of living issues and the country's ailing healthcare system.
I think it's good. Yeah. The Netherlands need a change.
Observers called this a stunning lurch to the far right for a country long regarded as one of Europe's most socially liberal.
So this is part of an international trend. Trump, Meloni in Italy, Sweden Democrats in Sweden, AfD, biggest party in Germany now in the polls. So this is the international trend, and huge anti-establishment, populist revolt all over the place, all over the world.
But in the Netherlands, a party led by a former European Union climate chief also won several seats and could now form the opposition. Supporters say Wilders' election win highlights division.
We have a lot of polarization. Society is getting harder towards each other. We are losing our humanity towards each other.
Wilders did win the most seats, but he will have to build a coalition that could pave the way for him to be prime minister. Omar.
All right, Geneviève, thank you. Another Canadian has lost his life on the front lines of the war in Ukraine. 34-year-old Joshua Mark Myers was killed near Bakhmut earlier this month. The Edmonton man had been serving as a medic with the Ukrainian military since September. Global Affairs says 9 Canadians have died in Ukraine since Russia's invasion last year. The World Health Organization asked China to provide detailed information on an increase in respiratory illnesses and reported clusters of pneumonia in children. CTV's Joe Makashan on Beijing's response.
In northern China, hospitals are overwhelmed as parents search for help for their sick children. With more reports of a mysterious pneumonia circulating, the World Health Organization wants detailed information. In a statement, the WHO said it has made an official request for information on reported clusters of undiagnosed pneumonia and whether the illness clusters are part of the overall increase in respiratory infections previously reported by Chinese authorities or separate events. Chinese officials have attributed this latest rush in respiratory illness to the lifting of pandemic restrictions. Both Canada and the United States had their own triple-demic of respiratory viruses last year. Experts say it is very likely something similar is happening in China.
Looks like these are respiratory viruses like COVID, influenza, RSV, and a bacterial infection called Mycoplasma pneumonia, which can circulate among kids.
There is no indication the outbreak poses any global threat, but China's surveillance and reporting of infectious diseases has drawn global scrutiny in recent years. Officials were accused of covering up early cases during the coronavirus pandemic and stonewalling requests from the WHO for information and access to patient data.
It's sort of a situation mirroring what happened when COVID first started. The WHO are probably being a bit more proactive and a bit more transparent.
Tonight, Chinese authorities say there is no evidence a new virus is circulating. Canada's Public Health Agency said it is monitoring the situation and it will update the public if there is any risk here. Omar.
All right, Jill, thank you for this tonight. For the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic, a group of world leaders have gathered in Canada for a major meeting. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is hosting his European counterparts to boost ties in times of global turmoil. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver is in St. John's for the EU-Canada summit. Annie, what's at stake here?
Omar, bilateral trade with the European Union is worth more than $120 billion every year. And Ottawa is confident there's even more business to do with the EU, especially in areas from critical raw minerals to clean tech and even artificial intelligence. Now, a new Canadian EU action plan on hydrogen will be announced at this Canada-EU summit with the goal of getting more of the fuel to European markets. There will also be a new Green Alliance announced, and European leaders want to talk about the potential of Canada contributing to an EU defense and security mission in Armenia.
In this challenging world, when we are facing so difficult geopolitical challenges, it's important to count on sincere friends.
People are looking at the shifting geopolitical poles, understanding the rise of authoritarian states, the increased weaponization of trade by so many corners of the world, and worried about what that means.
At the end of the event tomorrow, language on the Israel-Hamas war and the Ukraine war is likely to be included in a joint communique signed by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the President of the European Council, and the EU Commission President. Omar.
All right, Annie Bergeron-Oliver in St. John's tonight. Annie, thank you for this. Following backlash over plans to use foreign workers in Windsor, Ontario, battery plant Nexstar has confirmed the number of international workers it will hire for the first time. The company says it will employ 1,600 technicians with specific knowledge of the equipment through external technology suppliers. This includes 900 specialists from South Korea for work that will last between 3 months to a year and a half. The government-subsidized facility is expected to open sometime next year. In Quebec, one union leader is calling it the biggest strike in Canada. More than 500,000 public sector workers hit the picket lines. The premier is offering to improve his government's offer, but there's a condition attached. The latest from CTV's Vanessa Lee.
Fed up and frustrated, major unions in Quebec formed a common front today, striking together. Everyone from school support staff and teachers to nurses and orderlies are demanding better working conditions.
We deserve more pay. During the COVID, we were all here overtime, underpaid. It's time we get more pay.
This is the third day teachers have been off the job without pay, fighting for their salaries to match the Canadian average, in addition to smaller class sizes.
It's a sacrifice that we do because we think that it's the good thing to do to make movements.
The unions have rejected the government's proposal. They say amounts to an increase of 10.3% over 5 years, including a one-time payment of $1,000. This morning, the premier agreed to enhance their offer with one condition.
We are open to put more if and only if we get more flexibility.
You want to make another offer? Let's meet at the table. You want to talk about flexibility? Let's discuss it at the table.
Nurses are only striking on their breaks and are providing essential services. Still, hundreds of non-urgent surgeries have been delayed. They say it's all to make things better in the long run.
We're always short staff and people are not working in a safe condition, then the general population will suffer.
One teachers union, which represents Montreal's largest French school board, has declared an indefinite strike. Other union leaders aren't saying what pressure tactics could come next, Omar.
All right, Vanessa Lee in Montreal tonight. Vanessa, thank you. The Rainbow Bridge linking Canada and the United States at Niagara Falls reopened this evening after a major scare. The FBI has ended its investigation, concluding there's no evidence of a terror attack. CTV's Adrian Gobriel on the questions that remain.
A surreal scene now seared into memory.
The explosion happened right in front of the entrance to the building we're in,
sending eyewitnesses in the blast radius scrambling as a call went out to first responders to rush to the scene.
I'm going to send you over to
the custom bridge for a fire that's happening. Fires are already there. You're going there to block off roads.
This new border security video shows the moment the vehicle, now believed to be a luxury Bentley sedan worth more than $400,000, made impact.
Oh my God, are they all right?
2 people are dead. Authorities believe they may have been residents of Western New York, though their identity remains just one of many unanswered questions.
What led the driver of a vehicle to speed towards a border crossing stateside, resulting in the car being launched into the air and bursting into a ball of flames, remains part of an active investigation tonight.
We do know this is no longer being investigated as a potential act of terror. The FBI officially passing the case over to local police, who are now handling it as a traffic investigation.
Unbelievable emotional roller coaster.
Niagara Falls, Ontario Mayor Jim Diodati, like many, initially feared the worst.
My eyes zeroed in on the borders are closing, and I just had this sick feeling in my stomach.
Initially, all 4 international border crossings between Western New York and Canada were closed in response. Placed at the Rainbow Bridge, a single small bouquet for the lives lost, with the realization this incident could have been far more deadly and destructive. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Niagara Falls, Ontario.
Coming up, a tweet adds fuel to a fiery debate.
We have to be passionate about issues without intimidating.
Allegations of threats and intimidation against senators over a carbon tax carve-out. The heated debate over the carbon tax has resulted in allegations of threats and intimidation against senators. And now police and the upper chamber are investigating. CTV's Kevin Gallagher explains.
Known as the Chamber of Sober Second Thought, some senators say recent debates have been reckless.
We were yelled at and spoken to in a way that lacked respect.
This is extremely very rare and very unfair.
As senators debated a bill that would exempt farmers from the carbon tax when drying crops and heating barns earlier this month, a motion to adjourn was passed, infuriating Conservative senators. Opposition Leader Don Plett even threw his earpiece in disgust. Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer then tweeted pictures of Senator Bernadette Clément and Chantal Petitclerc, accusing them of shutting down debate, posting their office contacts, and encouraging people to call and complain.
We have to be passionate about issues without intimidating or posting things online that could have consequences that we did not intend.
Clément blames the tweet for an angry caller threatening to come to her home. Police moved her to a safer location and are investigating. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is pushing for this bill to pass and would not say if the tweet was a pressure tactic gone too far.
We encourage people to make those calls in a respectful, intelligent way. If someone has been threatened, then they should be, whoever uttered that threat should be held accountable.
Last I checked, our emails and our telephone numbers are public.
Tonight, holding back tears, Senator Plett apologized for yelling at others in the chamber.
I promise that I will try to do better.
Even tonight, debate continues on the carbon tax carve-out, though it's not clear when the final vote will be. Conservatives maintain it's faced unnecessary delays since the spring, while other senators say that shouldn't lead to intimidation. Kevin Gallagher, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, a heroic driver who jumped into action. A spectacular rescue from a high-rise inferno. "41 construction workers trapped for nearly 2 weeks in a collapsed tunnel in India will spend at least one more night underground. Rescuers had hoped to bring the workers out today, but a problem with the drilling machine prevented them from digging through the final few meters. Officials hope to fix the machine tomorrow. And a dramatic rescue in the UK involving a crane operator now being hailed a hero. Cheers erupted from onlookers below as the crane driver, battling heavy smoke, rescued a construction worker trapped on the roof of a nearby high-rise, engulfed in flames. A frighteningly close call. After the break. The famous duo now locked in a legal dispute. One of the biggest duos in modern music history has hit a sour note. 70s and 80s superstars Hall & Oates are now settling their differences in a courtroom. CTV's Bill Fortier on the clash.
The not-so-private eyes of the public are now watching the feud between 70s and 80s icons Hall & Oates. After decades of harmony, Daryl Hall has filed a lawsuit against John Oates, even getting a restraining order.
It's sad. I mean, I love Hall & Oates music.
Kurt Dahl is the drummer for Canadian rock band One Bad Son. He's also an entertainment lawyer. While details of this case are sealed, it's listed as a contract/debt case, reportedly involving royalties.
What Hall is saying is that Oates owes him money. So they must have some agreement between the two of them, hence the contract breach.
They were basically the greatest pop duo rock artists of all time.
This longtime radio host once met the duo and played their music on the air for decades.
It is surprising to me because I always want these guys to be best of buds, brothers.
For years, Hall & Oates were heard everywhere and even seen.
Did you hire Hall & Oates for this wedding?
This cameo on popular sitcom Will and Grace was funny at the time.
Actually, it's Oates and Hall now. Yeah, every 25 years we flip it. When I agreed to that, I didn't think we'd last this long.
Their familiar sound, even covered for comedic value on the big screen.
Maybe some other old favorites from some other artists? No? Nope. Just more Hall & Oates.
Now it could be no more Hall & Oates, but longtime fans aren't losing hope for a legal and musical resolution.
I wish they could get it together and be friends and get out and perform again together, but we'll have to wait and see.
Whether that wish has a chance could become more clear if court documents are unsealed, detailing how deep the musical rift really is. Bill Fortier, CTV News, Edmonton.
And that's a snapshot of this Thursday. Heather Butts will be here tomorrow for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching, and good night.